Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, specifically House of Coppola again? That's right, we're entering the 90s with Francis Ford Coppola. We thought we'd split it up, and we had a little sojourn with Spielberg in between. I am your co-host, Tristan Riddell, and with me, as always, is John Mills. John, how are you doing today?
This new wing of House of Coppola, it's a little weird. It doesn't feel like the other wing we were in, but I'm interested to see what goes on here. Like, how are the rooms different? Is the lighting off? These are all questions I have.
Why are the drapes billowing in the wind, even though the windows aren't open? You know, what's
These
going
are
on?
important questions to answer.
And of course, Darren, Dr. Sci-Fi Moser. Doctor, how are you doing?
Doing well. Looking forward to returning to Coppola. A lot of these are also movies I have not seen, including tonight's feature.
And tonight's feature is The Godfather Part III. Specifically, we watched the Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. We watched the recut. We watched the version that just came out. Was it last year? I think it was last year.
Yeah, I think it was. Last year. Time seems to mean nothing lately, but
Kids, what do you remember about the pandemic? Well, Coda came out, so that was a thing.
Listen, this was a big thing for me. This was definitely a big thing for me. But I got to ask, you two are the youngins. You didn't see this in the theater, right?
No, I was 4 when this came out.
Poor excuse, but okay. I guess you didn't have a chance to see Dom DeLuise host this that long ago. But I can tell you that I was old enough to see this in the movie theater, and I saw it on Christmas Day with my brother.
Oh, so you on Christmas Day in the theater. Awesome. I want to hear this story. Like, I don't need to know like what kind of popcorn you had, but tell me, paint me a word picture of what it was like going. Like, what did you know about the film going into it? Were you excited? What was it like when you walked out?
Was I excited? This was, anybody who recalls how they felt in 1999 about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, that. My brother and I, huge Godfather fans. I've told the story when we talked about Godfather and Godfather Part II, how I watched them out of sequence, Christmas gift for my brother, consumed as much as we could with knowledge of the films, all of those sorts of things. As soon as we saw a trailer for it, it was absolute anticipation through the roof. Could not wait. And this is pre-internet days. So you couldn't watch the trailer anytime that you wanted to sort of just pick things apart or anything like that. It was just if you happened to get to see it. And then the TV campaign started. And my brother and I love to see movies on Christmas Day. It was a big thing for us because, you know, we would go to breakfast with our parents. We would open presents, and then we'd just go to the movies because it was just back then nobody went to the movies on Christmas. So it was like, oh yeah, sweet. Optimal viewing conditions, a film we're absolutely stoked to see. And we went and we saw The Godfather Part III. And I am not embarrassed to say that when I first saw the film, I was in love with it. I thought it was fantastic. I wept at the end. I was absolutely moved beyond words. I think we wound up seeing it. It was either again that night or the following day, and we took family with us, and they saw it as well. And I remember everybody in the row, just tears streaming down their face at the end. We just felt it was such a beautiful sort of thing. But the first crack in the dam was my dad, because we're leaving, and my brother and I are like, oh, that's Andy Garcia. He was so great. Al Pacino's performance was amazing, and blah, blah, and we're talking about the intrigue and all of that stuff. And my dad was the first one to go, yeah, but Coppola's daughter, huh? And it was like, yeah, I guess. And that was the first crack in the dam of its reputation starting to fall. So There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
I mean, I'm picturing Triumph the Insult Comic Dog lined up outside for the Coppola fans for the midnight release. I mean, you said it's like episode 1, so that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, well, yeah. There was no midnight release, but yeah, we were there on Christmas Day. We couldn't know there's no chance we were going to wait to see this film. Had to go see it. And the thing is, this is one thing I just want to throw out there just to kick the discussion, was even though Godfather Part 3 has come to be reviled through the years, and we'll talk more in depth about what parts of that are justified, it got nominated for a truckload of Oscars. It
got nominated for Best Picture, and Pacino got nominated for Best Actor, and I think it won Best Editing.
I forget what it won, but it was like best set decoration, best production design, best editing. Best
I did not
picture.
win any Academy Awards.
Oh,
was it a complete shutout?
Complete shutout. It was.
I thought it had won at least one.
It was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor in a Supporting Role for Andy Garcia, Art Direction, Cinematography, Film Editing, and Original Score, and did not win any of them. It did win in the Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Supporting Actress and Worst New Star for Sofia Coppola.
I think, Sofia Coppola got like the most votes out of anyone in history for the Razzies.
Probably so.
It was something ridiculous like that. But Darren, what did you know about this film? Because like we've reviewed, one big reason why we wanted to do a Coppola of the 90s is so that we could finish our Godfather trilogy.
I'm a completionist, just like you guys. We gotta finish it.
We got to. And so we've heard the story about Godfather 1 and 2, but what did you know about 3 going into it?
Well, I knew, like, you have Andy Garcia, it was amazing. You have Al Pacino. There's the whole Vegas thing, and like he's setting up the new, the bank casino. Oh wait, no, that's Ocean's 13, which is a great. Again, everyone is so young in these movies. Seeing Andy Garcia, and I'm like, I know that actor, but he almost morphs into something else every time I see a character in these Godfather movies. There's always like, where have I seen them? But did I don't think I knew very much about this movie. Again, I'd heard the tagline "Death of Michael Corleone." Spoiler: he doesn't die in the movie, so I guess
not in this version.
Not in this version.
Well, I mean, if you want to get all metaphorical, it's like he kind of dies with the death of his daughter. Like, I could see that being a metaphorical death, but
I want to talk about that though, since you just jumped onto it. So, how
you guys have me watch the movie that he doesn't have him die in it? That seems like an important part of the.
I wasn't
the story.
expecting that either, because like I actually hadn't. I bought it when it came out. I bought Coda when it came out, but I hadn't watched it until we did this podcast.
Okay,
and I was fully expecting the ending to be the same, but then I think I read somewhere online where it said like, "Oh, the ending explained," and I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?
Why do we need to explain the ending?"
Right?
Yeah, like every internet blog is like, whenever there's a movie, it's like the ending explained, and it's always like the most mundane and straightforward ending. It's like the bloggers treat every movie as if the ending was like a Shyamalan film.
And that's because so many people just click on it no matter what. So congratulations, suckers. You're all playing right into the ad game.
So in the original theatrical cut, Darren, so we see the shot of
on the church
Michael.
Steps.
No.
Not even there. Okay.
Like we see the shot of Michael in Italy in his old age and with 2 dogs next to him and a cane, puts on his sunglasses. And then like a second goes by, we go back to the wide shot and he falls out of his chair dead. Credits. That's the original. That's the
kind of
ending.
That's okay.
And in Coda, he puts on his sunglasses and then we get some weird quote about how a Sicilian never forgets.
Right.
Like the mighty elephant.
Well, the idea being that it is to Darren's point, the metaphorical spiritual death of Michael Corleone, but that little tagline at the end, which I do think is beautiful, is the idea that he's basically in hell because he has to remember this for all the rest of his days. Death would be
Right.
a release for Michael
Right.
Corleone at this point.
That's what I was
And
thinking at
he
the
doesn't
end.
get it.
You know, it's worse what happens to him than him dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I knew was, you know, a continuation, probably an end of the story because it's, you know, kind of was hyped at that. And then I knew Sofia Coppola was in it. And that's pretty much it. I didn't know, you know, I didn't even know what the original story was. So I didn't know where we were going to pick up or how much time had passed. So very, very little going in. And lots with the Catholic Church. We're digging deep into organized religion, I guess.
Well, this is the interesting thing, and I think it's a lot clearer in this cut, the way that certain scenes are rearranged. And I think you actually have the advantage here, Darren, because you're
not tainted by the theatrical release.
Yeah, you're coming at it cold, and I think that's an advantage because I know I've watched it twice now, and my very first reaction when I was watching it was, this is so much clearer, the through line of what's motivating people. Because in the original cut of the film, and I'm going to wind up talking in circles here, but this opens the way that Coppola apparently originally intended the film to open, as a mirror to The Godfather, where there is somebody talking to The Godfather, asking for help, and him saying, okay, but what are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
In the original cut, it opens with this narration.
Always a plus.
Of
narration.
Him writing a letter. It's like this giant recap.
Like it has like a, like it shows the compound in Nevada, like all abandoned and deserted. Yeah.
Yes. And then it goes into him actually receiving the papal honors in a mass. And this one, by contrast, opens with him talking to the archbishop, and then putting drawing the direct line to, I gave you money, now I get the honor, and here's my big party for it. And so I think it's a much clearer connection, because in the original cut, you have the ceremony, you have the stuff, he talks with Kay.
Oh, but you don't know why this is happening.
And then later he talks about
40
international
minutes later.
Right. And so this is much better opening. Much better, much clearer.
No, I like their first impression was not formulaic, but there are now parts of a Godfather movie that do come out. Like you said, the beginning where he's making him an offer, and, you know, he's brokering a deal, you know, and then there's also the tense, everybody's dying, you know, montage shot. Like we always have that in a Godfather movie and it's often misdirected. Like you don't know what's going to happen, and you think one person is getting targeted, but then someone else dies. And I was sure they were going to shoot the son on the stage. That's what I thought they were going to do. I didn't think that they were going to actually go for Michael in the box. I thought they were going to take out his kid, because there was the line earlier. I don't remember exactly the line, but it was basically inferring, like, you know, we were seeing a lot of, he let his son go, and his son is happy, and he's happy for his son. And there's a lot connected to that. And I'm like, okay, if the bad guys really want to hurt him, they're going to just shoot his son right on stage. And that's obviously not the direction it went, but that's what I was expecting, something to happen.
Well, that's interesting. I don't think I ever thought that, but that's really cool that you felt that that's what they were going towards and leading towards this many years later.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah, based off seeing it for the first time, and just what did I pick up? Because I remember, you know, the fallout. I mean, that wonderful shot from the first movie where he closes the door on his wife and she's now out. And this showed kind of the reconciliation with his estranged ex-wife, and, you know, his children who are grown now. I mean, not full on reconciliation, but amicable.
Even
well, the thing is, and Tristan, I know you wanted to make a point.
Well, the second movie,
ago,
he won't even be in the same room as her, like, ever.
Right,
you're right. That's true.
But that's what's funny, is that's been one of my brother's biggest criticisms of the third film, is he doesn't he didn't believe that Michael would ever, under any circumstances, ever try to reconcile with Kay at all. And it's interesting because I think it's an echo of what you see happen in later series focused on anti-heroes or actual bad guys like The Shield or Breaking
where you kind of
Bad.
backtrack them from the edge of being the villain.
Well, no, not even that. More in the sense that when the female lead, usually the wife, like especially in Breaking Bad, there are a lot of fans of the show that react poorly to that character because she stands in the way of that character being as full on evil as they, would be if there wasn't somebody standing in that way or restraining or presenting the counterpoint. And I do think it's just a deep psychological sort of thing. My brother's reasoning, I think, is different in the sense that he just thinks that Michael was so angry at Kay that he never, ever, ever would have invited her or spoken to her husband or anything like that. I don't necessarily fall in that camp. But Tristan, you were trying to offer something about the recut in the beginning.
Oh yeah, just about about the beginning, because there are things, I think you're absolutely right about the through line and about how it establishes people's drive and motivations so much better, so much clearer. Because when I saw this movie as a kid, because like I've told the story before about how I saw all three, practically at once or around the same time. So it was really cool that I got to see 1, I got to see 2, I got to see 3. So I got to see the complete saga without having to wait years or without having to stumble upon a later one, And I was confused as a kid with the third one. Like with the first and second one, there was a few times when I was just like, wait, who's that again? And, who are they trying to kill? And what's that motivation? But like, you pretty much got the overall story. But with the third one, there's so much more behind the scenes politics and stuff that I don't understand, and business stuff and venture stuff and Catholicism stuff and everything like that. That was just like foreign to me. And so there was a lot that I didn't get. But when I looked at this cut, the Coda cut, I tried to put myself in the frame of mind as my young self. And yeah, if I watched this version, I would have been much less confused. Now, the opening I did enjoy because I think it absolutely should have opened with the scene that it did with Michael talking to the Archbishop. Absolutely 100%. But if they're going to cut out the celebration, if they were going to cut out the ceremony, but keep the celebration, they absolutely should have cut out Michael writing the letter. It just didn't feel right. It felt very weird that we went from Archbishop to Michael writing the letter saying, "I hope you come to the celebration," and then having the celebration, but not if you're not going to show the actual ceremony, then you should cut it down even more and just go from Archbishop to the party.
I understand. I respect that note. I actually mine gets even more nitpicky, where I wouldn't have opened with the shot of the cathedral. I would have just opened with the Archbishop.
Yeah. No,
it didn't
totally
make sense to me to have that establishing shot. And for all time, I'll be like, that. I don't know why we did that. Like, it's very obvious who the Archbishop represents in this conversation. Like, there's no there. You were talking about this, Tristan, where the branding, and it's like, if somebody's religious in a movie, they're Catholic because that branding is right on. And it's like, as soon as you see the Archbishop, you're like, yeah, he's Catholic. Yeah, okay. But and it's what's really interesting about this more clearly established through line is I do have a desire in some small part to go back and watch the original cut, because I don't know whether it's memory failing me about certain scenes and certain lines, or the fact that the new cut made certain things so much clearer that I suddenly understood the commentary that Puzo and Coppola are working in about certain things that still exist in our world today. Specifically, my brother and I spent decades making fun of International Immobiliare, or International Immobiliare, or whatever, however you want to pronounce it, depending on who the character is. And it is fascinating because I see it's almost as if Puzo and at the time Coppola had a crystal ball and were warning us in each of these three movies about certain things that were happening and certain entities that actually exist in the world. And like International Immobiliare becomes a much clearer criticism or hint about a big shadow organization that exists that you could draw a parallel to a real world thing right now. And it's kind of like, did Puzo know something? Like, is it because this thing came into existence in the 1970s? Is he trying to drop some sort of hint here? And of course, I mean, the Vatican is still embroiled in a number of financial scandals because of the fact that people who never had any business training and who, you know, are flawed people.
Yeah, like he says, like he's a pastor, a bishop, and then he's like, oh no, you're the banker now, and it's like, okay,
right,
sure,
right. Well, a lot of Godfather Part 3 was based off of already public financial scandals from the Catholic Church, as well as the 31-day Pope and all the conspiracy theories surrounding that. Like a lot of that was anchored in that.
Because I don't know much about Catholicism, but I'm like, so there was a Pope that was killed, or
well, that's the conspiracy theory. He just died mysteriously in his sleep one night,
but after only 31 days, which is really, really odd.
Right. It's one of those things where there have always been questions about it, and you know, it's one of those things where you don't. What I find that's interesting is it all depends on what the conspiracy theory is as to whether people will say it's nutty or it's worth exploring. And so I always try to look at it as there are questions, and they're valid questions, and I don't think they're ever going to get answered.
So, okay, with Godfather Part 3, with Coda cut and everything like that, Darren, was there anything that you felt was out of place for a Godfather film? Like, you know, seeing Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 so recently and for the first time, did Godfather Part 3 feel like a natural progression? Did it feel like, oh wow, this is a bookend, or did it feel alien and out of place, too far removed?
No, I felt it definitely flowed. Like I said, you know, as John pointed out with the opening of, you know, someone asking for help, I got a lot of similarity feel when they're walking the streets of like the Italian quarter of New York, very reminiscent of the flashback we had in the second movie where Vito is walking and exerting his influence and becoming the Godfather. And I know that's not exactly the way they were taking it, but I felt it felt in the same thread of like the wheel keeps turning and nothing really changes. It's like, you know, you have, you know, the same thing happens that will happen again. And then again, like the mass death montage of the now's the day that everything happens, you know, and lots of people die. So that was, I think all those pieces were very indicative of a Godfather movie from, you know, the one time I've seen the first and second movie. But no, I felt it fit. It didn't feel disjointed.
No, John, you said your brother thinks that Michael would never ever forgive Kay.
Yes.
Something similar. I have something similar to this. I have a question for you. Al Pacino said that he didn't really like this version of Michael Corleone, that he felt that the version of Michael in his head that he portrayed in 1 and 2 would never feel remorse for anything that he's done, including killing Fredo. Do you agree with Coppola or do you agree with Pacino?
I agree with Coppola on this one, specifically because I'm a firm believer that no matter who a person is, no matter how bad a life they lead, even if it's at the exact moment right before the spirit leaves their body, something unlocks in their brain that is something where they say, oh, I wish it had gone a little differently, maybe. Now, I know that seems like a hopeful or silly way to look at things, and I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule. There are a lot of people that I think probably didn't go out that way. But I think that because of the importance of Michael's family to him, when you get to a point where he's lost Kay, he knows Mary's eventually going to figure out the truth about him. His son wants nothing to do with him. Tom Hagen is dead. Nobody's left. A person in that position, even if they're a colossal jackass, wants to pull their family closer to them. He knows he's near the end of his run. So it would make sense for him to open his arms, and even if it's disingenuous, as it was every other time, there's going to be some sort of impulse to him saying, what can I do to get your love? What can I do to make you love me? And I think throughout this whole film, you find that Michael isn't totally sold on his own redemptive arc here. He, and especially with the way this film is cut, he has his moment with the future Pope where he confesses his sin. Well, the way confession works, right? For him to continue the lie with Connie, it's not necessarily a valid thing, because Connie still believes that or she's at least telling herself.
I was going to say, does that?
Yeah.
I want to ask that question. Does she actually believe that? During this cut, I asked myself that question for the first time, because in previous times that I've watched this, it was just like, oh yeah, no, she's just, she's living the lie, whether by choice or by, because she believes it. But part of me was just like, okay, well, Connie's not dumb. Connie is very strong. And if she was born a man, I truly believe that she would have been Godfather instead of Michael. And in that moment, when he was talking about confessing, and she said, why would you do that? Why would you do that to a stranger? Why would you confess to a stranger? And then she brings up Fredo. Why on earth? Why? Why would she bring up Fredo there? There was no reason for her mind to link his confession to Fredo unless she thought or knew that he actually killed him. And so part of me is saying, oh, is she secretly telling him, oh, it's no big deal? Like, we've not no big deal. Don't take that too literally, but like was she telling him it had to be done? You don't need to be sorry for that, without her actually saying that.
I love that read. I'm going to take that read because I think that is valid, because there was in that moment my own disconnect, but I took it as Connie has lied to herself for so long, she's come to believe it. She's convinced herself it's true. Yeah. But I like your read where it's the sin that's just not spoken of. Yeah. And so we're just going to, she's saying to him, it's okay to keep lying. You don't need to maybe she's signaling to him, oh, you made your confession. Don't say it. I can't reconcile these two things. I'm warning you off from saying anything right now.
I like that. I like that a lot. Like, she's preemptively saying, don't say it.
Don't say it. I can't lie to myself if you say it. Yeah.
Well, and with the confession, the way it was shot, kind of through the open window, into the courtyard where he and the
yeah.
I was almost expecting, because now he's tied up with the Catholic Church and there's this deal, and maybe the deal's not going on and people don't like the deal and they're trying to change the deal. I was thinking, and again, this obviously isn't the way the story went, but I was thinking someone was recording him confessing, and maybe even someone from the church, and then they were going to use that as leverage to get him out of this deal. But I couldn't quite, obviously they didn't go that direction, but I couldn't quite tell who that would be. And that would be a pretty strong story to tell, that the church is all about recording people confessing. Like, I don't think they would go there.
Well, the only person who can break into the Vatican and record something is Ethan Hunt. So I don't think I don't think they'd go that route.
Well, that's not going to happen for another couple of decades, since it's 1979. But even then, I really think that with a lot of these scandals, they're showing that it's more the function of, just like the government in Godfather Part II. There are different people operating on different planes of influence, and it's like once you get any bureaucracy that's of a certain size, certain things can happen, and people are completely unaware of other parts of it. But I think that more importantly, I mean, Darren, it would have been interesting if you found out that he was being recorded. Because that would have been a really interesting thread to take.
And even if they don't use it, just the fact that there's a tape. I mean, it's this pivotal moment where the Godfather is confessing to like killing people and his brother. Like, that's pretty damn. But fortunately, like, no one was really gunning for Michael in that way. That's more like a Godfather 2 with like the government and other powers going after him.
Well, in terms of the gunning for Michael, what I think is a lot clearer, with the through line and everything, is just the fact that the famous line, "Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in." But a line that I didn't recall from the original cut, and this is one of the reasons I want to go back and watch the original cut that just flew past me all of those years ago, is him saying flat out that he thought he was becoming a legitimate businessman, and once he gets there, it's the same thing. That it's no different than the mob. And he basically calls out the fact that these giant multinational corporations have simply taken the place of the mafia. And so
when he talks about like the Borgias, or
no,
like
when he's talking about Immobiliare, he says
in the kitchen.
I don't remember if it was in the kitchen, but I do know that he specifically calls out that he thought he was becoming a legitimate businessman, but business is just the same, that it's no different, that these guys are going out killing people and working against each other and undercutting everybody. And so it's more a commentary on the fact that human nature is just the same thing. And I think really, in an interesting way, throws out there something that, for instance, I think Scorsese hits with Casino and movies like that, where he also comes at it from the angle of, yeah, you may call it a legitimate business, but all it is that the mob is operating legally now. They've just got the protection of the government, the biggest mob of all. And Immobiliare is the same sort of way, that these guys are a mob that operate with impunity because they operate with this sense of legality, of foundations and trusts and all of these sorts of things.
Actually, to kind of harken back to a little bit ago, what we were talking about with Michael aging and wanting his family close to him and everything like that. If you think about, and I'm circling back here, but stay with me, is that if you think about the line from Vito in the first one, Marlon Brando, where he said, he's like, when he's talking to the singer at the beginning, he's like, "Hey, you spend time with your family?" He's like, "Of course I do." He's like, "Good, because any man who doesn't spend time with his family isn't a real man," or something to that effect. And, like, there's so much emphasis on the family and family time and being good to your family. And like, they call it the family and everything like that. And so for Michael to not have his family anymore, to basically only have Mary, like you said, who's going to leave him eventually because she's going to find out who he truly is. Like, I think that definitely makes sense that he's come back. But also on top of that, what brings me to bring this up now is that with him wanting to be a legitimate businessman, where he said, he's like, we sold the casinos, we sold this, we sold that, we sold all our interests in gambling and blah, 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 were completely legitimate. I think it was his way of, like, because fulfilling his promise to Kay that he made in part 2. Because he told, like, as they were dancing at the baptism party, he's dancing with Kay, and he said, he's like, no, we're going to do it. We're on our way. We're going to do it. We're going to be completely legitimate. And obviously that didn't happen. And so even though his marriage is done with Kay, I think it was his way of saying, see, guys, I'm legitimate now. Like, I'm not a mob boss. I have legitimate money. I have clean money. And so you can come back to me now. You can come back and forgive me. Mm-hmm. And it just, as naive as that sounds, I think that was a real motivation for him. And if you look at the overall themes of the movie about redemption, forgiveness, debts being paid, and on the international level, the government level, the religious level, the personal level, it really, I think, tracks, in my opinion. And did you guys get that sense with the themes, or did you read it in a different way? Darren, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, it's interesting again, where at the end of this one, I mean, we have no Tom Hagen. He's unfortunately passes off screen, so we don't get more amazing Robert Duvall. But yeah, but it's interesting because in a way, he's grasping at that last thread to continue. And in his mind, the only way to do that is to create this legitimate charity and have his daughter running it. So in a way, his child is running the next thing. He knows it can't be like, because yeah, you look at his two kids, like that's it. Those are his kids. Like he's not going to have more. And so how is he going to pass on something to his children? And that's kind of what this movie's about, is he has to let go of his son a bit to let him pursue his dream. But in a way, he's blessing that and passing that. And then for his daughter, who he sets up as the head of this charity organization, because so in a way, he's just grasping at that straw of like, how can I have my kids carry on this legacy? But it can't be organized crime. Like I can't see his daughter doing that, being like, I'm the godfather now, and sits in the chair. Like, no, that we're past that.
And then in walks Vincent.
Right.
Where
who's kind of like the old.
Yeah. He passes on to a different legacy. And this was another thing that I felt Coda kind of hit home a little bit harder, because they recut the scene. Like, okay, there's a scene where he's with Don Tomasino, in Italy, and Vincent is there, Neri's there, BJ's there, and Michael is asking Dom Tomasino, like, who is it? Who can bridge the worlds of the mob as well as the church and business? Like, who can bring all these worlds together? And they say Lucchese. Dom's is like, Lucchese's the guy who can do it. Well, in that scene, they cut it. It's a lot shorter, but it feels more coherent. It feels more to the point, because Vincent talks about, this was present in the theatrical cut, but it just, for some reason, just hit a little bit harder, because Vincent talks about the mess that is New York after the massacre, after the Atlantic City massacre, where he says, he's like, New York is a mess. There's a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to be filled by the Chinese, by
I remember that line.
By Mexican gangs or something like that. Like he named a few ethnicities, and so I think that's when everybody was just kind of like, damn it, like we have to rebuild.
Well, what's really interesting about that as well is that Joey Zaza is very obviously a call out to John Gotti. And it's really interesting because I think Michael has a terrific line where he says, he's very famous, and who knows, maybe someday he'll make you all famous. And because that was Gotti's thing, the Teflon Don, he walked out and he brazenly flouted the law, and he didn't care what was, what the consequences were. But I'm tying that together in this sense that there was actually a really good, I think it was an HBO movie starring Armand Assante as Gotti. And at the end of it, I think he says it at one point, and then at the end of it, they echo it where he says, you're going to be sorry when I'm gone, because it's going to be messier than it is now. And it's one of those things where it was really, I think, poignant, because once the mob was shattered and deconstructed, from the RICO stuff, New York, sort of the character of it changed a little bit. And I'm not at all saying that the mob should have stayed in power or anything like that.
So what you're saying is,
what I'm saying is
organized crime.
They should have cloned John Gotti.
Can't have organization without organized crime. It's in the word.
There you go. But it was, it is an interesting thing because Vincent hits on that, like you said, Tristan. I also think that one of the things worth calling out is that the way Zaza is killed is specifically, if I recall correctly, a Coppola needling a little bit that when he was making The Godfather and or The Godfather Part II, there was the head of an Italian-American organization who said this is, it was terrible that they were making this, that the mob had nothing to do. It was a myth. Italian-Americans, this is nutty. You can't possibly put this on. They protested the movie, and the guy got gunned down in a mafia hit. And it was like, so I remember reading the press stuff leading up to this where Coppola wasn't on record as anything, but the person writing the thing was like, it's a little suspicious that Zaza punches out the same way that guy did. Maybe Coppola's making a comment here.
I always think about that scene, and for some reason it always sticks with me when Vincent, rides up on a horse and he's like, Joe, bam, bam, Zaza. And then he runs so beautiful.
My brother and I, we reference that part with love all the time.
So, okay. Let's talk about that scene a little bit. And Darren, I don't mean to leave you out of this conversation because you haven't seen the theatrical cut, but that was one thing I really missed that they cut out of Coda is Connie ordering the hit on Zaza. Because in Coda, like you don't know that a hit's going to take place, until it's going to take place. I mean, you get an idea, but I'm not saying no one says go kill Zaza, because Michael has a stroke, and then we have that scene, and in the theatrical, and then and after that scene, we see him. We have a beautiful scene in the hospital suite, where Michael says it's not what I wanted. and right there, Vincent totally says, he's like, I got the go ahead from Neri. I got the go ahead from Connie. And Neri's totally uncomfortable. Like, what? Damn it, dude.
Yeah.
But in the theatrical cut,
X-nay on the it, hey.
Yeah.
He's right here. You weren't supposed to tell him that.
How embarrassing. He's right here. I don't know if you noticed that. But in the theatrical cut, they have the stroke, and then they're in the hospital chapel, and it's Neri, Connie, and Vincent is trying to convince Neri that it's the right thing to do. And Connie goes up to him and says, "Do it." And then she walks out. And I miss that moment because it's such a huge moment for Connie. Because I know that we see Vincent as the successor because he is literally the new Godfather by the end of the film. But it really cements the fact that Connie is there to take care of Michael. And she says it in the film. She says it in part 2. I want to take care of you. And she takes care of the kids and everything like that. And she's taking care of him. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to make sure the house runs or anything like that. No, she's going to step in and run the family because she can. And I really missed that.
Do I need to do my homework? Do it.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that's it's not just the continuance of power, but it's also, I think, that you're seeing Connie stepping into the role that Vincent didn't have because Sonny was not in his life. He's getting the sort of tutelage at that point that Sonny would have given him. Yes. Take him out. That's what you need to do. And I agree with you. It was a great scene. I'm not entirely sure why Coppola felt that it didn't work in the flow of this one. I think that maybe
if you look at the narrative structure, I mean, you don't need it because Vincent said, from an exposition standpoint, Vincent explains that scene in a later scene. But from a storytelling standpoint, from just a character-driven moment, I think it's a miss.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a scene that should have remained most likely. But I wonder if he felt that it was tonally too different from Kay talking to Michael in the suite. Like because when Michael's sitting there and he's like all loopy and everything like that, and Kay comes to him and talks to him, maybe he wanted to put more emphasis on that instead of, for the reason that you're talking about, where he's like, okay, they can talk about that. I'm not going to break up the tonality of the hospital. I'm pure supposition at that point. Yeah. I'd love to pick his brain about it.
And they did take out the scene of Altabello seeing him in the hospital suite.
Yeah.
Like they cut that out altogether, which was fine.
It is fine.
But we mentioned Vincent. We need to talk about Vincent.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the great character arcs in cinema. I truly believe that. It's when you look at the man in the leather jacket at the beginning of the film to the man with the slick back hair and the suit at the end of the film, it's such a contrast, but it's believable. It's so believable. And that is how you do an arc.
I mean, the Michael we see in the first opening scene, he's just Michael, the war hero who just came for the wedding. He's I wasn't thinking that Michael was going to become the Godfather in the beginning of The Godfather. He's secondary background character at best. And then it's like, oh, nope, it's actually all about him.
Right. I think that Andy Garcia, there was immediate talk after this that he was going to get the fourth Godfather movie and that they were going to do something where it was going to show his rise to power while having flashbacks or something like that.
And Leonardo DiCaprio was going to be Sonny.
Yeah.
Didn't agree on that casting, but it was just all talk anyway.
Yeah, it would have been interesting casting, to be sure. But I think that Sonny. I think that Vincent is one of the high points. I think Andy Garcia absolutely showed up. He knew what he was, the legacy he was there for. And this is somebody showing up to work and saying, I have to be firing on every cylinder, and then I need to add 2 cylinders and make sure I'm firing on those as well, because he is an absolute magnetic performance in this film. He's incredible. And, I honestly can say that his performance as Vincent was one of those ones that bought that pass for him, that for quite some time. Andy Garcia I'll see it. Andy Garcia in Madcap Night in New York. I said, all right, fine, I'll go see it. Whatever, fine, just put him in something. And that lasted for a long time because when you say Andy Garcia, this is the role I think of. Period.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Absolutely. Darren, what did you think of Vincent's performance? Or I should say Andy Garcia's performance as Vincent.
He became him. He changed his name legally during the duration of the shoot. Just echoing everything you guys have said. Yeah, great performance. Again, these actors in younger roles, like, it takes me a moment to be like, okay, I know that actor. Like, who is that? Like I said, he's taking over Las Vegas casinos. But I can see why he was so good in that movie, because he's great in this movie, and he does, I think, carry the torch as he should. Although in a way where, like I was kind of saying before, where what Michael is doing, it's almost like he's splitting it. He's like, I want to go legitimate and pass that legitimate business off to my daughter, my family, but we have to fill, like you said, this power vacuum. So the illegitimate side is going to be, because he's not his son. He's not related to him at all. He's not.
No, it's his nephew.
Oh, that's right. His nephew.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It's the son of the brother he killed.
No, this is Sonny's son. Sonny was killed in the toll booth when he was rope-a-doped into going off because Carlo beat Connie.
And his conception was at Connie's wedding when Sonny was having sex with the bridesmaid.
And I feel compelled, because we're on the Nerd Party Network and questions of canon and outside sources always come up when you're talking about nerd properties. But if you go by the book, technically Vincent cannot exist. Period. Full stop. Because in the book, she gets an abortion. after she does conceive what we come to know as Vincent. And so he never would have been possible if they went strictly with book continuity.
She told Tom that she wasn't pregnant. She told him that. Those are two different things.
No, I'm pretty sure in the book that I'm pretty sure in the book.
Like it's like it said she got an abortion, not she told Tom.
I am it has been so long since I've read the book. I'm willing to concede that I'm getting it wrong. I'm absolutely willing to concede.
Was the
It's been a long
abortion
time for me too.
In 1979 or 1990?
It was in 1992, which makes it even more difficult. But I'm pretty sure because there's a whole thing because, oh my gosh, because the doctor that she winds up with, and there's a whole weird tangent that goes on there explaining why Sonny was a better fit for her than other men and stuff like that. So you know what? I have to check this because that's what my brain has always told me.
We can look it up later.
No, I gotta know. Go on, Paul.
Okay, so I mentioned Tom. Darren, did you notice anyone missing from this movie?
Well, yeah, it was Robert Duvall is gone. I wish that his character had not died off screen. I need a Venn diagram or some sort of family tree to like track all these characters. There's so many characters, Tristan.
Oh, I'm sure that it has been made. I'm sure that it's out there. But so this is one thing that there's two things that absolutely kill me about this movie. And I'm a staunch defender of Part 3. I am. I unabashedly love this film. I understand that it has its problems. I understand that it has its issues and that it goes left when it should have gone right a lot of the time. Not a lot of the times, but a few times. But it kills me. It absolutely kills me that Robert Duvall was not involved. And it's all because Paramount Pictures didn't want to pay him what he wanted to get paid. And I know that like there's a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're just being greedy, like just do the film.
You're Robert Duvall. Like you can make a line in the sand.
And that's the thing is that he did make a line in the sand because he went on record, even years after Godfather Part 3 came out, he's like, the only reason that they made Godfather Part 3 was for the money. And I made a financial decision not to be involved. And because he was getting paid what he got paid for the second one, which is obscene, in my opinion. And Coppola fought for him. Like Coppola fought Paramount saying like, yes, no, give him the money, give him the money. And Paramount was really tight on the purse and did not shell out. And so they had to rewrite it. And originally Part 3 was going to have Michael die on the opera steps, not Mary. And Tom was going to be holding Michael's body, weeping. And that was going to be the end of the movie.
And then Tom was going to become the new Godfather? Or is he always going to be the outside? I mean, I don't know. Is that how it works? Does he inherit the power?
No, I don't think it's like
at the moment.
I don't think it's Highlander rules or anything like that. But
okay.
it's
but that would have been like, oh man, that visual would be amazing.
Right. And that's the thing. That's all that I'm like, not all that I'm thinking about, but that's a big thing that I'm thinking about is like the visual of Robert Duvall holding Al Pacino on the opera steps in his arms. I mean, like the last Corleone brother alive, because they, like in every film, a Corleone brother dies. And then you have the adopted brother who's only left alive. And it absolutely kills me because every single time I see BJ Harrington, that character as the lawyer, all I'm thinking about is how Robert Duvall is not there. And it's distracting.
It's distracting specifically because of the fact that it was just a money argument. And he felt he deserved to be paid as much as Al Pacino and Diane Keaton. And I remember reading that after the fact, and both my brother and I were like, why the hell wouldn't you pay him that? What on God's... What else do you need to cut to bring him into this movie? Like, where do you need to cut some corners and stuff like that? And I was wrong. I was remembering that she had an operation, getting back to Lucy Mancini. So,
okay.
But we talked about Andy Garcia. I want to actually pull it over toward Sofia Coppola. We've danced around it Let's go
We
ahead
have
and have
danced
it.
around. I wanted to talk about the good stuff first.
I know, but Darren, I want to ask you. This is one of the most notoriously bashed, hammered, destroyed, hated characters in a movie franchise.
She barely has anything in it. She's not really in the movie that much.
You did see a trimmed down version, like
Very
Okay.
much so.
Hey, I
Coppola
just showed
cut-
you what you told me to watch, so you can't blame me for
No,
watching
we're
the
not
Coda
blaming you. We're not-
version.
No,
Oh, no, we were being
it's-
merciful.
We're, you know,
Okay.
like that's the thing is that like Coppola, you could really tell that Coppola trimmed around her performance in this because Coda is a shorter movie by, is it 16 minutes? I don't know. It's something ridiculous like
It's
that.
significant, yeah.
But like Coda is shorter, and you can see that there's a lot of Sofia Coppola scenes that are trimmed down, and where it really takes the heart out of a lot of her performance. And to me, a lot of it felt truncated, and not just because I saw the theatrical cut, but it felt like things were missing. Darren, did you feel like things were missing from her scenes, or did you not notice that? Is that just because I had poor knowledge?
I don't think I really did. Again, because most of her scenes are around the powerful people she's with. So she's with Vincent, she's with her father. Like, I'm focusing on them during those scenes. And, the biggest part she's playing is, the love interest and, him choosing being the godfather versus being with her, you're my cousin and I should love my cousin part at the beginning was a little cringe. Like, I don't know. I at that point I wasn't deep into the story enough to know what was going on, but honestly, I feel like she was not really in the story so much to drag it down like a boat anchor. And I think her dying in the end is the best gut punch towards Michael rather than him dying. So that works. Like I said, I was expecting the son to be shot on the stage in front of everybody. So yeah, I mean, vaguely in the tinges of my memory, maybe I remember, hearing that like, oh, Sofia Coppola's Godfather performance is like the worst thing ever, but it wasn't even in my forefront watching this for the first time.
It's really interesting because I do think that the cuts are very much with an eye toward minimizing her time on screen. And with, this is what's difficult is Sofia Coppola endured so much ridicule, scorn, what have you, for her performance in this movie that it's one of those things that becomes disorienting when you hear about people getting upset because people are getting hacked on for performances nowadays on social media, right? Is we didn't have the social media at the time to be that present, but she was very aware. Critics were not kind to her at all, nor were fans, nor were audiences. And it is one of those things where I don't know why it has one of those effects where it's like, okay, like when somebody is poorly received in a performance, having been through it, it's one of those things where I think those of us who remember the Sofia Coppola thing, we're kind of like, okay, guys, we went through this before. It happens every time. Get a good group of people around them, but you're never going to stop the people from zeroing in on something like this and attacking it. It's just been around since the dawn of time, sort of thing. And to her credit, Sofia Coppola has said that she learned a lesson from it. Where number one, she's like, acting was never really the thing I wanted to do anyway, and she said, it taught me a lesson, taught me that you're going to put yourself out there, and sometimes people are going to hate what you do. And she seems to have turned it into a positive thing to say, okay, I tried it, I failed. And so now I know that I should be putting my skills toward directing or what have
writing
you.
and producing and directing. Yeah.
It's such a scapegoat for people to disregard this movie. And
because of her performance.
Because of her performance.
Yeah.
Is it a good performance?
She was nearly
No.
not that big of a part of the story to derail the whole story. I don't
Exactly.
believe that at
That's
all.
the thing. Is this like, am I trying to defend her performance? No, it's not a good performance. But it's not a movie-breaking performance. Like, if the lead was as bad as Sofia
Andy
Coppola,
Garcia didn't pull it off.
If Andy Garcia was as bad as Sofia Coppola, then yeah, you have a valid argument. But you have one side character. Honestly, she's a side character.
Yeah.
And
we're reintroduced her because she was a child in the previous movie. So it's a whole new introduction. We're not carrying over an actor or anything like that from a previous movie.
And it's just it's a distraction. Like whenever I say, over the years I've said like, oh yeah, I really like Godfather Part 3, people laugh in my face and they say like, oh yeah, you like Sofia Coppola in it? And I'm just like, it's maddening.
Don't you get it, Tristan? You can't love part of something. You have to hate all of it or love all of it. You can't just a 0 rating or a 10. That's it. That's all you can do.
There is no such valley between.
I kid. That's
great
totally
and
not
awful.
how I think at all, and that's ridiculous. But
and besides with Tristan, it wouldn't be a 0 to 10. It would be a 0.0975 to 9.8639.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but I did hear.
I'm not going to round up like some sort of savage.
Oh, jeez. I did hear though that Winona Ryder had been considered, or maybe even was in production and then backed out. And I think
she showed up to production.
I think that would have been. I mean, there's no way to know. Like we can't like say, oh, if you substituted this actor or actress, you're going to get X. But
I don't know. You can.
I will say this, that the performance would have been better and it would have ameliorated a lot of things. But for somebody like me who grew up in a large extended Italian family, the idea of cousins being in the relationship was sort of an insurmountable sell for Coppola to begin with, because it's hard. I have something. My God, I don't even talk to the majority of that family. Just like the Corleones, we fell apart. But like, I have something like 30 or 40 cousins, and I saw them a minimum of 4 times a year. Most of them lived near us, and so it would have been like a brother and a sister doing something. Like that's how the family bond worked. Now, I heard somebody offered an interpretation that it's supposed to highlight the hypocrisy of the fact that Michael and his way of life condemns what's going on, but what he's doing is just as not common practice, abnormal, bizarre, however you want to phrase it, as what's going on with that. So like it sort of highlights it's supposed to highlight Michael's hypocrisy, that he has a problem with this when he does things that are deemed unnatural and sinful as well. I thought it was an interesting take.
That is an interesting take. I'm still not quite sure why Coppola decided to pursue it, other than somehow to get that motivation where, Michael is invested in a female character that he has a relation to, but also with Vincent rising to the throne. Like he needed Vincent to give up something,
right,
to, take the throne. And so that's the only thing that I can think of. And it always kind of amused me that it said 3 times that it's dangerous. You can't do that. It's dangerous. It was always, it always struck me, not quite as odd, but just as non-specific as to why you can't hook up with your cousin. Are they trying to say it's dangerous because your kids could be mutants? Is it dangerous because society will reject you? Is it just a blanket term?
They don't go any further. Yeah.
They don't say it's wrong. They don't say it's disgusting. Neither of them are like the father, like Michael, Tony, Kay, even Antebello. Like they don't act like, oh my God, what the is wrong with you?
If they're saying it's dangerous, how do they know it's dangerous? What's experience have they had that they know this is dangerous?
Well, I mean, the thing is, from a historical perspective, cousins marrying happened throughout history.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I do think it's it's a sensibility thing where but the thing is, and it always was a situation where they were cousins, but they lived far apart. They didn't really know each other that well, sort of thing. And then the family wanted to keep the wealth, native or, royal families and stuff like that. It's like, oh, they're my cousin. Yeah. You know what? We need you guys.
Look at the Windsors,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So,
but yeah, it just always struck me as kind of odd that's no one acted enraged or disgusted. They were just like, can't do it. It's dangerous. Can't do it. It just seemed very, very odd to me in that setting. But it was Sofia Coppola
can't do it.
Sofia Coppola in real
Dangerous.
life has a very thick Valley Girl accent. And so in the first cut of the film, that when they screened it, she had a Valley Girl accent. And so like the test screens were just like, what was going on? Like, why is this happening to us? And so Francis had Sofia dubbed over 20% of her lines, with either a new, a more neutral accent, the best that she could do. And I can't prove this because I don't have the VHS anymore, but I could have sworn that in the original cut of her death on VHS, when she says "Dad," she goes, "Dad," like just like that. But in the restoration cut and in this Coda cut, she says it much more like "Dad," and then falls over.
You're correct.
Am I correct?
You're correct.
Father, yes. I die before you.
But I remember it being so harsh, where it was just like oh no, Dad.
Yeah, no, you're correct, but I do I do want to say, calling out that scene in specific, that Pacino's performance in that moment as a father who's lost his child, that silent scream that he has with the spittle running down, and then I remember seeing it for the first time and just thinking, oh my God, he's dead. What there's no sound. What's going on?
He's gripping his chest like he's been shot, but he hasn't.
And then when he draws in that breath and lets out that wail, is just such an incredible, it's one of those things where there's enough distance and there are enough parodies of latter-day Pacino performances that you forget what a masterful actor he can be. And in that moment is such an incredible performance. Like, it, even if through the rest of the movie you're like, yeah, this isn't really working, this isn't really going on, that specific moment just pulls the soul out of you, and you just hurt for Michael so badly right there.
That was found in editing.
Really?
Yeah, because on set, that wasn't a silent scream. Like, he was wailing during that scene. Like, Pacino was wailing at the top of his lungs, and Coppola hated it. Like, he hated it so much that he almost cut it completely from the film.
Wow.
But then the editor came up with the idea of making it a silent scream.
I did not know that. So
he was screaming, but they edited it to remove the sound to make it look like a gasp. Oh.
Then allow me to rescind everything and say editors deserve more credit than they get in a lot of films.
We're looking at you, Marsha Lucas. We're looking right at you.
But the thing is with with that, like, that's so puzzling, because Coppola's there on set. He can give the actor direction to say, hey, Al, let's try a cut where you don't do that. Why wouldn't he have done that? What
sometimes actors are like, nope, that's what you're getting. I'm not saying that's what happened, because I don't know what happened. I can't answer that question definitively. But there's a lot of times. Were you
there, John? Were you?
Yeah, when actors just kind of go, nope, that's what you're getting. I'm not doing an emotional take a second time.
When I invent a time machine. I'm shelving everything else, and I'm going to go back there, Darren, and I'm going to find
filming
out.
of Godfather Part 3.
That's right.
Because here's the thing: is that like there were times when because after Part 1 with Part 2, Coppola and Pacino didn't always get along. Like Pacino and Coppola kind of really ruffled some feathers, and Pacino like verbally talked about how he's like, why are we still filming? This is absurd that we're still filming. And then at the beginning, like when he wrote Part 3, and then he went to Pacino and said, like, I need you to do this. Pacino asked for, I think, $7 million, but they offered 5, and Pacino asked for 7, and Coppola was so offended and so angry that he told Pacino, he's like, if you don't come down in your price, I'm going to completely rewrite the movie, and the movie's going to open up with your funeral. And
what a great way to start a working relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Just as one final little note about the marketing for this is there was a legal fight having to do, I believe, with the film The Freshman, where they wanted to use Brando's likeness in the original ad material. And Brando was digging in his heels and saying no, because Paramount was fighting him about playing a parody of his own role in The Freshman or something like that. Like that, I'm probably jumbling up stories here and there, but I do know that Brando was originally adamant about not being in the promotional materials, and they had to get him to crack somehow. So that that's another acrimonious relationship that carries forward, sort of thing.
The entire reason why Godfather Part 3 exists is because Coppola was running out of money.
Yep.
His company Zoetrope was completely running out of money. Like they made a couple of flops. He couldn't get funding for his next motion picture. Paramount was just like, no, we're not going to give you money unless you give us Part 3. And he's like, fine, screw it, I'll do Part 3. And
I made money.
But the thing is that they said they're like, okay, well, you're going to make Part 3, but you're only going to make $1 million, and that's for writing, directing, producing, and editing.
Oh, that's obscene.
And yeah, especially even in 1990, like 1 million for a director who made The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2. Now I know I know people are listening and we're arguing about other people's money and we're arguing about millions and everything like that, but we're just talking about within the industry, that kind of money for that kind of work, especially with all those kind of roles. Like that's a huge hit. That's a sign of disrespect is what it is. And so like, this was not a labor of love. This was, I got to do this to make some money so that I can continue to work and continue to make my pictures. And you know what? I'm just excited that like with Winona Ryder dropping out and him casting his daughter when he had so many other talented actresses who wanted the role. I think the name that hit me the hardest was, I can never pronounce her last name correctly, but Annabella Sciorra. I think that's
I think it's Sciorra.
Is it Sciorra?
I think it's Sciorra. I don't know. I
don't know how to pronounce it.
But I know who you're talking about. Yep.
She's an amazing actress. She would have been perfect for it. That's who Paramount wanted. They're like, oh, Winona Ryder's going to drop out. Well, just get her. Oh God. It's just like, I think about it like, and then like with Winona Ryder dropping out, with Robert Duvall not being involved, with Paramount being super stingy with fees and with a contract being super tight, and he had a year to write it, shoot it, and edit it. That's insanity. That's absolutely insanity. I can't believe we got the picture that we did. When you have all that put together, it's amazing that it's
sounds
as good
like
as
you're
it is.
giving it a half-star bump right there, Tristan. That's the kind of things that you say when a film gets bumped up half a star.
I just think it's a shame that we won't have a 4K restoration of the original theatrical cut, personally. But outside of that,
John is bringing this up. I was actually going to let it go. I wasn't going to talk about it. You brought it up.
Just when they
I did.
thought I was out, they pulled me back in with
That's
the
right.
restoration
That's right.
cut.
After I watched Coda, I immediately went online to
I thought
to
you meant
watch,
the Voyager episode. Sorry. I had
bad
to
watch
flashbacks.
part 3, the theatrical cut, to kind of compare some of the differences. Like I was just kind of scanning through, and I go to iTunes, and my digital copy that I purchased does not exist anymore. Godfather Part 3 theatrical cut is no longer on iTunes, and the only thing that you can find is Coda.
Well, they
and when you
overrode
buy
it.
the Godfather triple pack, you get part 1, part 2, and Coda. That's it. And so I was like, "Holy crap! They pulled a Lucas. Like we're is Coppola trying to erase the theatrical cut from existence?" But of course, I calmed down. I took a Xanax, and I went to Vudu, and it's still there. Thankfully, it's still on Vudu, and I still have my Blu-rays.
For now, it's
For
still
now.
there. For now,
But we all
buy
know
your
that
copies
4K
of The Godfather Part 3, the most reviled sequel in history. Buy them now before they're gone.
But the only trilogy besides Lord of the Rings that was nominated for Best Picture for each one. So I'm just saying that out loud.
That's true.
And the
But
third
we all
one,
know that a
unlike
4K
Lord of the
restoration
Rings,
is coming.
didn't win anything.
Yeah, shut up. That's not the point I'm making. But yeah, like I said, the 4K restoration is coming, so we're probably not going to get that 4K restoration.
Maybe they're just holding off until the format wars are over. If Blu-ray wins, maybe we'll get something good. I don't know.
Blu-ray wins. We're
All
going
right,
to get a 4K HD DVD.
Hear me out.
It's going to be the size of a dinner plate. It's going to play really well.
Hear me out. The Godfather Coda Part 3, The Death of Michael Corleone, the final cut. Longest movie title in history, every searchable term you can have, 4K restoration, and that one scene added back in. We got an instant smash hit.
Just
right
make
there.
it
And there's a hashtag
3.5
in there for some reason.
That's even better.
Yes.
3.5. Hey,
Yes.
all the kids love the decimal points in their titles nowadays.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and slide into ratings. Darren, what do you give The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone?
All right. So for comparison, for The Godfather, I gave it a 4. For The Godfather Part 2, I also gave it a 4. And for The Godfather Part 3, I gave it a 3. Again, maybe because I'm seeing the better of the two versions I hear. This is what I'm picking up. So I don't have the baggage of being Christmas Day isn't haunting me anymore from watching this movie. But no, I felt like you guys pointed out, it does have Godfather elements that move between all three. Do I wish Robert Duvall was in it? Of course. I really liked his performance. I wasn't as jaded on Sofia Coppola just from not feeling she was really that much in it. But I felt it wrapped up the trilogy as well as could be done. But I think you're definitely right, Tristan. It's not a labor of love. We'll probably get that from future films from Coppola. Maybe next
John?
I give it a 4.
Hey!
I think that this cut is infinitely better. It's not perfect. There are definitely things where I would be curious to see if we could jumble them around a little bit more. But I do think that it effectively, because of the scene reorganization and the trims here and there, it is a much clearer film. It is a much more, it's a much more serious film than I do think that Coppola is redressing a wrong because of that year. I think that this is one of those arguments where you could say he really didn't in that one year have the opportunity to deliver the film that he would have wanted as a filmmaker. So it's completely justifiable for him to come back and say, I want to try my new cut and just try something different out here. And I think that's completely fair. I think it's also fair to say there's probably a third version of this that we'll never get that's probably even a little bit better. But this version, I will watch this. I've watched it twice. I could see myself watching this again. unlike The Godfather Part III, which I have not in quite a long time, and that was by choice. So I do think this is a very much better cut.
What rating would you give the theatrical cut?
Theatrical probably over time fell to about a 2.5.
Damn, that's a big drop.
Yes, because it was too long. I didn't like the way that the scenes were ordered. I do think that Sofia Coppola's performance being trimmed in this version is a huge help. And she's an accomplished artist in her own right, but this is just not what she was meant to do. And I think that some of the extra scenes and extra stuff that's added in terms of Vincent's scenes interacting with Altabello and Lucchese, and there are certain things that are lengthened, fleshed out, and like you said, in the Tomasino scene where it seems a little bit more focused and reordered, a little more coherent. That's a huge boon to everything, but primarily putting that scene with the Archbishop at the beginning is an instant leap forward. Like the rest of the movie could have been exactly the same, and this would have leapt right up to like a 3 or a 3.5 just for reordering that. So there you go.
For me, I give Part 3 4 stars. I love this film. I really do. As I said before, I unabashedly love it. I know there's things wrong with it, but I think this is a great film. Is it on the same level of Part 1 and Part 2? No. Part 1 and Part 2 are 5-star films. Those are some of the best films ever made. Ever. Part 3 is not one of those films, but it's great. It definitely deserved that Oscar nomination for Best Picture. I think this is a great movie. It's so like if this movie stood on its own, I know it's hard. This movie can't stand on its own because, it builds off of Part 1 and Part 2. But if it didn't have such big shoes to fill, I think we would be much more forgiving for it, if that makes sense. I know that's a little, chicken and the egg kind of thing, but I love it in spite of all its flaws. I don't think I like Coda as much as Part 3. I think I like Part 3 better. There are things that I like about Coda more. I love that it starts with that opening scene. It absolutely should have started with that opening scene. But some of the recut scenes, as I'm watching it as an editor myself, I felt like there was a lot of missed opportunities to reorganize even better. Like I feel like John, you mentioned that there's probably a third cut that could come from this, and I want to make that third cut so bad. I really feel like I could make that third cut and cut around Sofia Coppola better, and not than Coppola did. I know that's ballsy to say, but I feel like there are certain scenes where it felt truncated and weirdly mashed, and there was organization mistakes in Part 3 that weren't fixed in Coda that I wish were. And I could go on and on about that, but I don't want to give Coda a rating, but I'm giving the movie as a whole, whether it's Part 3 or Coda, I'm giving it a 4-star because it's a great film, but it's just not on the same level as Part 1 or Part 2. Dr. Sci-Fi, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me at drsci-fi.com, DRSCIFI, where I have my Stormtrooper troop blogs, links to my podcasts, and store projects, all sorts of fun things. You can also listen to me here on the Nerd Party Network talking Star Trek on SETI Alpha 3, as well as talking about being a maker on Maker's Method.
John!
Well, gosh, you can find me as Kessel Junkie out there, KESSELJUNKIE. You know what? Connect on Letterboxd. That's where I have the most fun on social media. You can also find me on the Nerd Party Network, co-hosting a show called Aggressive Negotiations, which is a Star Wars podcast of a slightly different flavor that I co-host with Matthew Rushing. And Tristan, where can people find you?
You can find me at The Insane Robin on Twitter, as well as Letterboxd, and also on the Nerd Party Network. Go to thenerdparty.com, check for all different types of shows that we have. Babylon 5, Star Trek, Star Wars, film, TV, something for everyone. And I host another show called Second Contact, a Lower Decks commentary podcast. And it is exactly as it sounds. And everyone should check it out because we have a great time doing it, and you guys should listen to it. John, what are we doing next week?
Oh, we travel to Transylvania to discuss Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Gary Oldman as Dracula.
Are you going to be in that voice the entire time we talk about the movie next
God
week?
willing, yes, I will.
Until next week, thank you for opening the door to House of Coppola.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.